back, College Baseball Central fans. This is another production of the Weekend Rotation before we get to Omaha. I know Jake and myself are both flying out there. We'll both be there on Wednesday and Thursday. I think I get there a little earlier than you do tomorrow, Jake. But how we doing, man?
Yep, I get the red-eye flight out of Omaha, so I'll be there at like 11 local
Yeah,
time. So
you're there late. Yeah, I get there at
yeah,
4:45. So my day, I'm gonna have time for Rocco's. I'm gonna have time to go see what's going on in the shops. I might even go get some cigars and whiskey. It's gonna be an easy Wednesday for me. But you come in late, late.
yeah. My 9 to 5, unfortunately. With all the days that I've taken off, I was like, yeah, I better not take off Wednesday as well. So I'm actually even fortunate to kind of be there even Thursday, kind of playing with house money, but really, really excited to kind of get in and interact with all 8 of these teams. And it's just crazy that we're already here. It's crazy that it's all ACC, SEC.
Yeah,
I
it
know,
is.
I know. For me, like the Big 12 part of it really wasn't that surprising. It was just the Pac-12 part. I think you kind of thought Arizona was going to do a Cinderella run. Oregon State was kind of going to do that hot, cold, hot. Oregon, I mean, really, really impressed me as they were in that A&M regional. But the Pac-12 goes out without a whimper. It seems like
Mhm.
they had the track tournament where I don't think any of them competed
Yeah.
on those last days, and then baseball right after midnight, surviving the late great Bill Walton. It seemed.
It's crazy, Jake, to look at this and go, we don't have a mid major. We don't have a team from the Big 12. We don't have a team from the West Coast. Like that is something that always happens in Omaha, and we're missing those pieces here. But on the flip side of that, the argument we've had all season long for the last 3 seasons is ACC or SEC. And I know it's not necessarily that way. It's 8 individual teams, but it's three and one on both sides of the bracket. I know that we're excited to watch this thing unfold, and it is exciting in the fact that I think that we have 8 of the probably 10 best baseball teams here, and that's pretty cool that we actually get to see that for a year. We don't see that all that often, Jake. And I know that most of these teams are teams we talked about in Omaha. I think the one team that a couple teams were missing that we didn't think or thought we might be there, like the Arkansas, the Oregon States that we kind of just penciled in from the beginning of the year, have been filled in with some of these ACC and SEC second tier teams, and we're excited. I mean, I'm excited. I think that this is one of the best fields that they've had in a long time in Omaha.
Yeah, I mean, I know last year we had Skeens and Louder was kind of the big headliner. Florida's now had 2 people make it to the major leagues that were in Omaha,
Yeah.
but that TCU team really wasn't that talented from a MLB standpoint. That Oral Roberts team was kind of a Cinderella. It feels like every single game here where, if you're on one side of the bracket or the other side of the bracket, you really don't want to pick. Like
Yeah.
they're both just absolutely loaded brackets. And you mentioned the teams that aren't here. It's crazy that we have 4 SEC, 4 ACC teams. We don't have Clemson or Duke. We don't have Arkansas
Yeah.
or South Carolina. Those were 2 popular picks that everybody really wanted to go with. I guess that brings us to kind of the first point. What did you think of the Maneri thing with South Carolina? I feel like we have
I
to talk about that.
I mean, I know that South Carolina's not here. It feels, I guess Ray Tanner's thinking stability of the program, right? Because you look at a guy like Maneri, he was a Team USA coach. He's done all the things you can do in college baseball. It just kind of feels weird that he's coming back to coach college baseball. He's an older guy. He's got a lot of experience, but as long as the players are happy about it, I guess is a big part of it. So, but if you hire a guy like that in, the expectations are really, really high. And I know from our standpoint, we looked at it and LSU kind of fell off late with Maneri there. I hope that Ray Tanner's done his due diligence there and they're excited about who they brought in. But to me, it's kind of a head scratcher. I thought they'd go a lot younger. I thought they'd bring in a high energy guy, and maybe one of these young assistants or young head coaches from elsewhere and see what they get. But I was kind of surprised, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, they went with the kind of up and coming young mid major that I think completely flopped. Uh,
Mm,
I know that the Monty Lee, they make him the highest assistant in the country. It was a little bit of a head scratcher, I will say.
yeah,
There, the LSU near the end had a lot of problems. Again, me and you weren't around the program, but we've heard rumors that he wasn't actually the one going out and doing the recruiting, and he was really kind of playing with house money there at the end. I think the program it got away from itself a little bit, and I feel like Jay Johnson kind of rejuvenated it. I have a feeling that that's probably going to happen again at South Carolina. I don't think he's going to be complacent as he was as LSU, but I don't know how somebody his age relates to somebody 18, 19 or in the transfer portal because I'm 25 and I feel like he's even too old for somebody like me to play for. Like
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
Monera's
insane,
more
like the
my
age
time,
gap.
right? Like, and I look at this guy and I go, I love Paul. I think that he did such good things with Team USA. He did such good things at LSU at the time that he was there. But he was never that high energy, go out and go get all these guys and do that kind of thing. He just it doesn't. I don't know if it fits the vibe there in South Carolina. But Ray Tanner is not just going to hire anybody. He's not just going to go out there and hire. I mean, he knows he had to make some sort of splash and get this team going again. I'm just a little surprised. That's all I'll say on that one.
It reminds me like just like a Pierce vibe at Texas. Like he has the resume. He's never really kind of he's underperformed, but he's also overperformed at the same time. But you kind of just sit there and like at the end of it, like I mean, realistically, he's at the bottom half of the SEC in terms of coaching. So South Carolina went out and hired somebody who's in the bottom of the conference. He's not going to outcoach. He's not going to out recruit Tony or Sloss. He's not going to outcoach Jay or DVH. It's going to be a tough place, and I don't think he has the leeway with where South Carolina should be as a program to really kind of go in. And it's, I mean, we're going to know this time next year if it was a success or not.
And,
I feel
and
like,
maybe it's a stopgap, Jake. Maybe it's a guy that you just bring in to kind of stabilize the program for a few years,
yeah,
and
and
you
there's
look for
nothing
somebody
wrong with
younger
that.
to
And
bring
again,
in as an assistant, and you bring in somebody young, and you say, hey, we're going to build around this, and they're going to go out and do the recruiting and stuff, and that's who our next head coach is.
yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me is somebody coming off and poaching Monty Lee, but the money that they're paying him, I think he's going to stay around for a while. But let's go ahead and jump into those Omaha 8, Mark. I'm excited.
Let's get into it here. So first off, we got games. We're going to be there Thursday. We're going to be there at all the practices. We got all 8 practices all day there. We'll be in between them. We'll do the press conferences. It's a really busy day for the media on Thursday, and I know that we're very excited to go out there. And we're going to see some of these teams right here at the first. So Friday night, you get Virginia in the afternoon versus North Carolina. This is an exciting series here. I cannot wait for this game. I love this side of the bracket because you get 4 of the top 16 teams are still in it. Number 12 seed Virginia, number 4 UNC playing each other. I love UNC. I would love to see them make a run here.
Yeah, I mean, Vince Honeycutt, I think, has been every bit as advertised. I know that he kind of had that, obviously, he had the sophomore slump last year and then that little midseason lull. He's been completely back. Casey Cook, I think, is still one of the best players that no one talks about in the country. Alberta,
Yes.
I think, is another really, really talented one.
Parks Harbor, like they have
Yeah.
guys all over the field that can make you pay. And I think that's the difference in that lineup when I look at UNC versus this Virginia lineup that has been a little different, right? Like this Virginia lineup doesn't feel like the Virginia teams of old that make it to Omaha.
No, I mean, they truly have a really, really talented ace. Jay Wolfoot is kind of a mixed bag. He reminds me a lot of, I think, Thatcher Hurd from last year, where every part of you says he's going to blow it, he's going to blow it. But, when the game's on the line, they need the season outing, he comes and delivers. So I
Yeah.
expect him to kind of be like that. I think that, for Virginia to succeed, I think it's a lot like them last year. They have to kind of stay on the right side of the bracket. Honestly, I don't think any of these teams, outside of maybe a Texas A&M, but even then they kind of just lost their ace, have the bullpens to kind of roll through the losers bracket. A lot of
No.
these teams succeeded by staying on the right side of the bracket because they've just dominated it like that. I mean, it's going to be a really, really tough bracket. And then we got this comment from Noah, Florida State.
I
It's
said the same
Renegade.
thing off the
Noah.
air. I said he's wearing a snuggie.
It's Renegade, a Sherpa. Trying to not get my Omaha tan in just yet, but I mean, this one, these are two teams that just absolutely mash. I think that
Yeah.
they have a lot of gap to gap hitters that I think translates really well to Omaha. Obviously, they can kind of hit the long ball, but again, I think that they're going to beat you with 2-3 doubles into the gap.
Yeah.
And the pitching, I think today is going to really, really kind of set them up. They're going to need to get 6-7 guys because again, Virginia has a Teal at the back end of the bullpen. They have a few kind of bullpen guys, but I wouldn't say that they have a deeper bullpen, especially to years past.
Yeah.
And UNC, it's kind of a mixed bag too as well.
They throw out a lot of guys, right? But none of those really scare you on either side of the bullpen. The lineups are what scare you in this
Yeah.
first game. It's those lineups can go out there and hit two, three, four doubles, triples. They're going to bang the ball around the yard, and they don't have to do it with the long ball, which makes a gigantic difference. Is that they can go out there and just string together hits and be successful. I personally like UNC in this first game, but I really like both these teams. I think it's going to be terrific. But I
I
got
like
UNC because of the lineup.
Virginia. I think Virginia, if they can stay on the right side of it, if they can throw their starter as long as they can. I think that they have just a ton of 2015 magic. They've been there before. This is going to be their third straight year. I think 4 or 5 too, because or four. I mean, they were shocked in 2021.
The thing is, here's my thing, Jake. UNC is one of the blue bloods that has never won a championship, right?
Yeah, there's a
How do
ton of
you
those. I
go
would
all the
say.
time? I think that this is going to be a year for a new team. I don't think we get any retreads. I don't think Virginia has the team to necessarily go out there and win it. Florida, I hope that they don't get to the final. I hope that it's somebody else other than Florida, and those are the last two that are left in it, right? So I think that we get a new team to go
Here's the
out there.
craziest part, Mark. For as much as a blue blood as UNC is, they have the longest distance between this trip in Omaha and their last one in the side of the bracket.
Yep.
Because Tennessee's been a mainstay, Virginia's a mainstay, Florida State went that last year with Mike Martin. It's just crazy this side of the bracket. There's so much Omaha experience. There's so many. I mean, Link Jarrett was here 2 years ago with Florida State. Like,
With Notre Dame.
yeah, with Notre Dame, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a good segue into this next one. But this side of the bracket, I think, is just insanely loaded.
It is. And when we talk about this, number one, Tennessee, some of us went out there on a limb at our preview show before that we started the season and said the number one team in the country is going to win the national championship. Tennessee has the lineup to do it. They have enough pitching. They have the right mix of things that set you up for a national championship side. Unfortunately, they played number 8 Florida State and they get Jamie Arnold to start this thing off. That is not the best way you want to start this tournament.
No, I mean, he's the best pitcher left in college baseball. Every
Yeah.
single game that he pitches in, he's going to be the best pitcher, regardless of if anybody runs out there. This is one where you can kind of see Tennessee where they can kind of roll through the losers bracket with the depth. But again, they're missing a few arms. I think AJ Russell's done for the season. But, they can absolutely hit. And I know that the calling card has always been, they hit. Lindsey Nelson gives up a lot of cheap home runs. I forget who had the stat, but it was some Tennessee fan. And of the 35 home runs that they hit in the tournament, only 8 would not have been gone at Omaha. So the bats are going to play and travel really well. And the flip side of that, I mean, they're a quietly underrated small ball, like fast team. They take the extra base a ton. Even Blake Burke, I've noticed he's been legging out doubles a lot, really, kind of lately. Ainsley's kind of a first to third guy. There's a lot to really like about this Tennessee team. And again, they always kind of play with a chip on their shoulder with Tony V. That
Yeah.
video that he had, I think, just inspired everybody in the country.
And they got Christian Moore still, right? So you're talking about one of the best players in the country still at second base, and he's one of the best players left in the tournament. On the other side, Tibbs has been on fire for Florida State, and you're talking about a guy who struggled in the regional, didn't have an extra base hit, and then he hits 3 big boy bombs, and he just takes off. With Jamie Arnold on that Friday night game against Tennessee, it's must watch baseball. I could not wait for this Friday night one, Jake.
I cannot wait either. I'm glad that we get this in the night game. Jamie Arnold, I think, is the other one. I mean, Cam Smith's another guy with Florida State that's really kind of
Yeah.
a guy that's going really, really high in the draft. I think it's Jaime Farrar. He had kind of a couple big home runs. This reminds me of that Stanford team that went and beat Tech in those first 2 games early, so you kind of forgot that they were in Omaha. I think that's what this Florida State team kind of reminds me of, is somebody who was on the forefront. They were the first team in. They took care of business against a UConn team that was really a tough matchup. Jamie Arnold didn't have his best start against UConn, but inversely, it's an earned run average. So statistically, he's due for like a 1 or 2 run gem, which I'm really, really excited to see, because I don't see it's weird because I don't see a pitcher shutting down this Tennessee lineup, but I also don't see a lineup dominating Jamie Arnold.
That's the tough part here, right? It's
Yeah.
mixing oil and water because I want to say, oh, this Tennessee lineup's been rolling, right? They can hit off anybody. They can get extra base hits. Jamie Arnold doesn't give those up, and he's really
Yeah.
good when he barrels down. I'm excited to see, especially in this ballpark. It feels like it leans a little bit more towards Florida State. I do think Tennessee being the number one seed, though, I think that they do take care of business in this first. I think they find a way to win. Florida State does have enough arms to roll back through the losers bracket side, though.
I
They're
don't
one
know.
of the
Their
teams.
bullpen's, I think, pretty shaky. That's kind of their biggest
But they got
weakness.
arm. They got enough arms. I'm not saying their bullpen is
Yeah.
loaded, but they have enough
And I think
arms
their
out there.
bats can win shootout. I think anybody on this side of the brackets, the bats can win shootouts. It's not like Arkansas where it's like, okay, if you score 5 runs, they're out. I'm gonna go Florida State. I really like Jamie Arnold in the start. I think it
It's a
kicks
tough start. It's a
losers
tough start.
bracket.
It's tough against
It's
Tennessee.
I will say this. I'm gonna make a bold prediction though. Whoever loses that UNC Virginia game, I think goes 2-Q.
They're
But I think
out.
the winner
Yeah.
plays themselves into that championship side
Yeah.
because both those teams are very similar where they got to stay in front of the arms. Whereas Tennessee and a Saturday, I feel like. I mean, Xander Seacrest is having a monster season and a monster postseason. I think they bump him up into the 2 role. But even then, if he's able to pitch that quote unquote semifinal game or regional championship, you feel really good as a Tennessee fan about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Tennessee is set. They just have to get through Jamie Arnold. That's it. They have to get through that first game. I do think the loser of Virginia UNC is the first team that's eliminated in the tournament because I think that they are going to lose to the loser of Tennessee and
Yeah.
Florida State in that next one. Moving on to the next one, Jake. Number 10, NC State. They're back. They're back in Omaha. So excited that they're back. The NCAA couldn't keep them out this time. They are in. They are ready. This team is on fire. They have dudes producing from all over the lineup. They don't believe in small home runs. They hit these big, massive home runs. They're going up against Kentucky, who has been a little bit small ball lately. They played really good against Oregon State. They did a lot of little things correctly. This Kentucky team is tough. It's Kentucky's first trip to Omaha. And I know that's tough. That's a really tough thing, especially for our new coaching staff and everybody there. I think the Cats are awesome. I'm leaning towards NC State here just with the experience and the way that they've been playing baseball lately.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with the same thing. I will say this. I have doubted Kentucky all season. I thought they were a paper tiger after they dropped that Tennessee series. I think in my SEC pick'ems, I picked against them every weekend. I picked against them last weekend to Oregon State.
Yeah.
They feel like they're going to be the team that's happy to be there. There always kind of seems to be that one team where they're not necessarily unfamiliar with Omaha, but they kind of relish in the moment. That feels like Kentucky. NC State feels like they're there to do business. They remind me of those Mississippi State team in 21 where, they've been there before. They know what hotels they're staying at. They know what restaurants to get. I mean, Alex Minkowitz, I think he is the active leader for career or for games played. He feel like he's been there forever. I forget the pitcher's name, but he outdueled Leiter in 2021 when they were there last time. They have a ton of experience. Eli Serrano has been just on an absolute tear as well. It feels like NC State, but the flip side of that is everybody in the country has doubted Kentucky.
Yep.
Part of me, when I went back and watched that game, I felt like it was okay. Oregon State blew a lot of chances, like Bazana striking out first and third in the 8th. Micah McDowell not really delivering there in the 9th. At what point do we kind of give Kentucky credit? And I feel like this is the one for me where if they can go and beat an NC State team, you kind of start talking about this Kentucky team going deep, deep, deep into Omaha. But I really, really like NC State here.
I've watched Kentucky quite a few times this year. I've watched NC State quite a few times. It feels like NC State played some really tough teams well, and they went and beat good teams on the road. They weren't afraid of anybody at any point in the season. They went and played tough opponents, and they beat everybody that they had to, especially teams on the road and top 5 teams in the ACC. Kentucky feels like they're going to go out and play small ball, which fits in the ballpark, and I think that they're going to be fine. I think this team hits and does a lot of little things correctly. They play defense, they pitch, they throw strikes. But I just like the way NC State's playing baseball right now. I just love the way that they're playing baseball right now. And I always go with a hot team in Omaha, and I feel like NC State's one of the hottest right now in the country.
Yeah, they're the hottest team, and they have a chip on their shoulder because the last time, like, I don't know if everybody saw that picture of the trophy that says national championships over participants in 2021. I think they're ready to give it the big middle finger. And I mean, they kept the Georgia lineup down that not many teams in the SEC were able to do. I mean, that really, really impressed me because, Georgia was at home, rowdy atmosphere, the inventors of the stroke, if you will, with the clapping. I know a lot of people kind of had fun with that. And NC State went and quieted them. So I'm really excited to see what NC State does. They're just absolutely loaded with talent, though. This doesn't feel like an NC State team from last year or 2 years ago where they're the ragtag bunch. They are Goliath. David became Goliath. David hit the gym and is now Goliath.
Yeah, and we had talked about this team, the way they were playing at the end of the season. They could have been a national seed. They were right there. They could
I
have
think
been a national seed.
There's a very real argument that them and Georgia should have been switched.
One and I was on that board. I said NC State is the seventh best team in the country. I just wanted to make sure that Florida State also got a national seed, and they did. I think that NC State's just playing such good baseball, and Kentucky earned their spot. Right, they're the 2 seed. There's a reason they played good baseball all season, but they didn't do anything that really necessarily wowed me. What NC State's been doing the last 4 weeks has wowed me. I am full believer in this NC State Wolfpack team.
I should say that it always seems like the team that has a little bit of star power delivers in Omaha. Um, last year with Cruz and Skeens, Ole Miss, I forget the kid's name, the one who broke his ACL. And then
Timmy, Tim
State,
Elko.
well, yeah, Tim Elko, Mississippi State with Tanner Allen,
Yeah,
Rocker and Leiter with Vandy. I don't know who that is for Kentucky. They kind of feel like they don't have a
Nicholson.
person in the lineup, but they don't have somebody that you can sit there and go, okay, when I think about this Kentucky team in 5 years, I'm going to remember that guy. Like Florida State, I'm going to
Yeah,
remember Jamie Arnold. Oregon
yeah.
State, Travis Pisana. Texas A&M, you're going to remember Lavalette. I don't think Kentucky has that person, and history kind of tells us that always kind of doesn't play very well. I mean, even Oral Roberts had a star with Jonah Cox.
Yeah.
I mean, Mitchell Daly, who got kicked to the curb at Texas, is kind of
I think it's either Nicholson or maybe even McCarthy because the way that they've been playing lately. But they're not superstars. Like I said before the season, and even late in the season for Kentucky, they don't lean on a superstar. But now they're playing. I mean, they're playing good baseball, but they don't lean on
yeah,
a superstar to be really, really super. And that's one thing that when you look at Omaha, I do like the stars to shine, and they typically do under the lights, or they crumble and their whole
yeah.
team falls apart and they're not there. So I really would be surprised to see NC State drop this first one to Kentucky. Moving on to the next one, Florida, unseeded, the only unseeded team left. So we have 7 1 seeds, and then we've got Florida, and then against Texas A&M, who has had we'll call it a plethora of injuries as of late. Jake, it's a little concerning. Hoping that some of them are not too bad, but we do know Braden Montgomery is done for the season. I believe
I think
he's
Shane's done as well.
and they haven't
Can't risk
officially
it.
said it, but yeah, it sounds like he may not be able to throw here for
Yeah.
the first
Well, I
weekend.
mean, Sauce said in the presser that even if his MRI comes back positive, they're not going to risk it at all. So A&M's going to have somebody step up.
Yeah.
Um, but some notes. How likely does this remind you of that Ole Miss team?
It's,
Number one seed, number one seed, but very undeserving. Everybody kind of clowned them when they got up really high. They go to 2 notorious playoff chokers. Ole Miss went to Miami, then Southern Miss. Florida goes to Oklahoma State and Clemson.
and
Two
Clemson
teams would always underperform in the playoffs. A little bit of star power with Cags and Elko.
and
They
Neely, the way he's been thrown right now.
Yeah, McNeely and Neely. I know that one's kind of a little bit confusing.
Yeah, Neely's
I would
been
say
fire
they
for what he
remind me more
was.
of 2022 A&M, where they have
Okay.
really good starting pitching, but the bullpen, I mean, they're going to run Neely out till his arm falls off. He's going to throw
Yeah.
70 pitches every time he goes out there. They did beat A&M earlier in the season, and I would say that's probably a big reason that Florida made the tournament is that they beat A&M. There were 3 really, really competitive games. A&M kind of threw that haymaker in both games that they lost, then kind of went to bed. So I mean, Florida, they got 7 innings out of him on Friday, even though he allowed 5 runs early. They have obviously, I think it kind of leans towards A&M now. I know that Florida took 2 of 3 from them, but they were all 50-50 games. I think you really kind of have to put it on A&M. They're going to
Yeah, I
throw
mean,
Rager, I believe, on Saturday, on Saturday.
yeah,
He really exited early. He didn't pitch great against Florida last time either. He's really not as good on the road. But, he's their guy. Like A&M's got to get good starts from him. And then after that, I mean, who knows what Schloss is going to go with? Does he go with Chris Cortez, who was a starter last year, who everybody kind of holds their breath every time he takes the ball, but he doesn't walk people anymore. Justin Lampkin, who didn't record an out last time he threw and walked a whole bunch of people. Tanner Jones, who in Schloss's own words said he was mediocre. I don't think they started having Ashton back. I think that train would have already left the station. So
Yeah.
A&M know what they have on Friday night or on quote unquote Saturday,
Saturday.
and then from there, it's anybody's guess. They have 7 or 8 arms that can run out, but most of them can only throw 2 or 3 innings and spot starts.
They're
They're
going
not.
to be piecing it together, but they
Well,
got to get through the first one. So Prager
yeah.
goes. If he can go deep into that ball game, it gives them a chance, right? He's got to go more than what he has lately, and he's got the arm, he's got the stuff. He could definitely, absolutely do it. I like A&M here, but it won't surprise me if Florida figures out a way to win this ball game, especially how they've been winning games lately. And I'm surprised that Florida's still doing the thing. I thought when they got the first loss against Oklahoma State, they were done. I thought that was enough. That was the end of their season finally. They're a team that I was vocal about saying that they probably shouldn't have been in the tournament. They probably shouldn't have been. I'm still leaning on that they shouldn't have been.
Mhm.
They're here now. They've played their way. They've done what they're supposed to do. A&M is a team that if they were 100% healthy, I'd feel really good about this team playing in this one. I just worry that those injuries might catch up to them and a little bit of the inexperience now of what they're going to be throwing out there.
Yeah, I think that they were. This is going to sound really weird because Braden Montgomery's a top 5 pick, but they were very fortunate that it was him that went down. They have a little bit of depth in the outfield with Chestnut being in center. I think he's a better center fielder than Lavalette. I think they're really fortunate that it wasn't, Grahovic or Ali Camarillo at short because I think they would have been really, really screwed. The defense doesn't really take that much of a drop off.
No.
Hitting wise, Caden Kent had just an insane weekend. Every
Yeah,
single at
he's
bat.
not. I don't think he matches that again, Jake. I think that was a
No,
one-off. I think that
I don't think
it
he
was
hits
great. It was awesome.
I don't think he hits a grand slam to kind of put the game away. But the flip side of that is he had a ton of really, really great at bats early. There was a lot of balls early in counts that he did his job, chased it up the middle. His first at bat, he almost hit a home run. So I
Yeah.
think that his dad's a big leaguer. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for somebody like him.
No.
I think that they got to get more out of Travis Chestnut. They got to get more out of Gavin Grahovic because
Grahovic's got to be better. He's got to be
Hayden
better with the bat.
Schott hit 777 over the weekend with
Yeah.
2 home runs. I don't think you're going to get that from him, and I don't think you should expect to get that from him. Sorrell's got to come back, and then again, the pitching. I think that A&M has, from a numbers standpoint, I think the deepest staff, but from an inning standpoint, I think it's on par with everybody else.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think that it's just. We're at the point in the season where you throw who you got and you say, "Go give me some outs," and you hope that you flip the coin the right way and you pick the right guy that day, because that's where we're at with the arm injuries and everything else in today's game. Go out there, collect me some outs, please. That's what I'm looking for.
Does it worry you that A&M stayed on the right side of the bracket in all these tournaments? While they had 3 games in the regional, they played Grambling in the first one and got up 8-0 early. Prager obviously is their Saturday guy, and then now who pitched Sunday was Shane Stejo. And then the Oregon series was just kind of, I wouldn't say lucky, but I don't think you get 5 innings you can't count on Chris Cortez to give you 5 innings of 1-hit ball.
Yeah.
Evan Ashenbeck, 5 innings, 1 run ball. That's the part that really kind of worries me is they never needed to have that guy after Stejo. And now with Stejo out, they need that guy who's going to be after him.
That's what I'm saying.
This feels like a season of what ifs for A&M. I hate to say it. They're in Omaha. They overcame adversity, but man, if they had Montgomery and Stejo, you would feel really, really good.
That's what I was saying earlier. It just makes a different team. It does feel a little bit different. I still like A&M. They still have plenty of stars all over the place. They still have enough.
They're still the
arms is my
favorite on
question.
that side of the bracket too.
Yeah, as they should be, because I feel like they are the team that's proven it the most. Now, the way that NC State's playing, I feel like they're the hottest team on that side of the
They're the
bracket.
hottest. They're going to be the juggernaut.
Yeah. So, who did something cool this week, Jake? I know that we always talk about this segment. It's one of my favorite segments. Obviously, Cam Calorella, who's not here with Clemson, the home run and then the ridiculous catch for me was one of the top 5 things I've ever seen in college baseball in the same basically inning there to save his team's season, to keep putting him on his shoulders. That was really cool. Also, the way that Florida State just ended up coming all the way back and winning that extra inning game against UConn, I thought was really telling of their season and how Link Jarrett has prepared this team.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Evansville. I know that they lost 2 of 3, but as Tony Vitello said, I don't think anybody there should hang their head. They can all say I was on one of the best Evansville teams ever. And then assistance of teams that are still playing, because the transfer portal opened Monday of last week. A lot of them were, out on hotels. A&M and Tennessee have already signed a few guys. Um, it's kind of a blessing and a curse because we saw when LSU won the national championship last year, they really didn't get the big portal guys. It was kind of more A&M who was out. So just credit to all of those coaches that are putting in the extra time. They're already scouting on top of it. Now they're recruiting, making those calls. The best stage is Omaha, but the flip side of that is, you want to go where you feel the most love. And those teams that are still playing don't have the freedom to kind of get the love. So every single player that kind of commits to these schools that are still left, it's just a testament to the staffs that they have, that people want to play for winners like that, and that schools like this sell themselves. I did think it was cool that A&M had a commit from Fairfield who single-handedly said he committed after that home run to Caden Kent, and they paid to the crowd, and the crowd was just going bananas.
Listen, you look at these home ballparks that some of these were played in, right? Virginia, terrific atmosphere there. UNC was a blast. They were having just a fun time there. Tennessee, of course, Lindsey Nelson was crazy. Florida State's always had a great atmosphere. Kentucky, that ballpark was rocking. It was crazy.
I
That
think
was
it was a
awesome.
attendance record.
It was. I mean, as it should be when you're facing a national seed like Oregon State and you're getting that opportunity playing against the team that had the most championships left in the bracket. And they go out there and took care of business and they had huge fan base. It was amazing to see. A&M, a blast, right? That was outstanding to see that. I think that that's a bigger thing here in today's game too, is just being able to say, "Hey, I want to play in front of this crowd." Playing playing this baseball at this level to me is better than single and double A baseball. I think that these guys are getting more opportunities to be in front of crowds. These guys are getting more opportunities to play in tough situations. They're getting almost a better staff and more support staff at these schools than they would in single and double A baseball.
I was going to say that the staff aspect of it. I mean, Wes Johnson was a major league guy who went to college. Max Weiner was the head of pitching for the Seattle Mariners. I'm sure Virginia is just absolutely loaded with staff. Same with UNC. That there is an argument to be made that some of these staffs in college do prepare you better to play in the major leagues. They get a little bit different kind of practicing. They obviously get more game situations than I think in minor leagues. They get more meaningful innings, I would say, but it's just crazy that the way the timeline is, that you're having to recruit the next guys as your team is still playing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things too. If you wait until I think June 25th to start recruiting, like, you know, Blake Blake Sears already committed somewhere. There's a lot of guys that have already committed. So you're going to be really behind the eight ball. And we've seen it that teams that don't embrace the transfer portal and NIL are getting left behind. There's
Yeah.
numerous blue blood tier jobs that got left behind by the portal. And you can't just sit back and recruit freshmen anymore.
Yeah, you got to build with both, right? So you got to get some young guys coming in. You got to get those freshmen in coming that are still talented. They're going to help you fix that ball club. You also got to fill some holes with some guys that have some experience and are ready to go. Especially this year, I've heard a lot of college baseball analysts, and we've talked about it. It feels almost like free agency this year with how many guys are going to be entering the portal and where they're going to go. It's really crazy, especially with the conference realignment. It's going to be crazy to see where these guys go the rest of the summer.
It's crazy too that programs that we consider blue bloods are having people transfer out. Like Miami's starting third baseman, it was a freshman All-American, is transferring out. Like it's one thing if they're transferring out from the smaller schools like Southern Miss to Ole Miss or something like that, but
Yeah.
it's even crazier when you're going blue blood who had a bad season to other blue blood. Like, I mean, credit to Link Jarrett because that's another one where it could have completely unraveled after their season last year. He actually goes in and attacks the portal really good.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I think Link could sell sand at the beach. I would love to hear like sell off between Tony V and Link Jarrett because I don't know how some of these kids pick where they go because all of
I
these
mean,
are just silky smooth. Like
we
Jay
had it the
Johnson's
first
another
game.
one.
We
Yeah,
literally
like
had
it's
that the
insane.
first game.
I mean, there's like 5 or 6 coaches that we've got to interact with. Who are like, yeah, I would play for you. I would play for
Yeah.
you. I would play for you. Like, it's just insane. Like,
I have not been silent about my dislike for Notre Dame for a long time. Link Jarrett made me care about Notre Dame baseball. That's how
Yeah.
good of a coach and a person he is. He had me caring about what was happening with Notre Dame baseball, and I dislike Notre Dame as a whole. And it's like, I believe in this team. What is happening to me?
Yeah, I mean, even somebody like Kevin O'Sullivan, who isn't really talked about in kind of the same breath as Tony V, he gets big portal guys. He's a great guy to talk to. He's got a ton of insight into the game. O'Connell's another one. I mean, it's just insane having
What
to.
what Mejion's doing at Kentucky? I would go play for that dude. He looks like
Yeah,
a blast to play for. He's working his butt off. He's out there helping these guys and talking to them and being just a positive. I love it. I think that the college coaches that are in today's game are really creating a better atmosphere for these players, and I think these young guys are really the what's stepping up and doing this for them. I love it. Anyway, we're gonna move forward. We're getting off on tangents here. We got to get back to
our
Omaha.
tangents.
We got to get back. We get off tangent too easily. What's the scariest offense left here in the 8 teams, Jake?
Um, NC State, they're the hottest offense in the country. I would say either them or Tennessee, but I'll let you kind of take Tennessee. NC State,
I'm
they feel
not
like.
taking Tennessee.
Oh, really?
I'm taking North Carolina. The more I look at that lineup, man, like as we said, Azuno, Parks Harbor, Casey Cook, Honeycutt. I really am fearful of that lineup 1 through 9. There are so many studs in that lineup. I think UNC for me is the scariest offense right now. I could argue NC State also, so I like your pick there. I think NC State is right there, but for me, I think it's UNC, especially in this ballpark. I think it plays. I think it plays. Who's the scariest pitching staff left?
Um, I'm gonna go A&M. I know it's a little bit of a homer pick. They can bring out a guy who throws 100 with a 90 slider, and he's the second best reliever on that team. Evan Ashenbeck's, up for stopper of the year. Ryan Prager's, I think if you're gonna line up the aces from 1 to 8, he's gonna sit in that top half.
Yeah.
If they can get a few of their glue guys that Sloss really, really wanted to see, they have 2 weird arm slot guys too for all the Stephen Shocks that love weird arm slot lefties. They have righty specialists. They have lefty specialists. I wish we could even say that they had Braden Montgomery who could come in and spot start an inning for you, even though he's only thrown one all year. But unfortunately, he's injured. But A&M's bullpen and A&M's starters, I feel like, are the ones that you kind of fear the most.
I to me, there's not really a staff that I'm super scared of in this last 8 remaining, which is weird. It's a lot more offense than the staffs themselves. So I'm going to lean on Florida State because Jamie Arnold. I think that if they can figure out a way to beat Tennessee in that first game, it sets them up because I think Jamie Arnold has a good start and it puts them in the right spot. Now, I don't love Florida State's bullpen. I don't think that their bullpen is elite. I don't think that they have a ton of great arms, but I think they have enough good arms to get through this. And I know that they've dealt with some injuries with Leiter and everything. They're not going to have their 1-2 punch. I still like where they're at, especially Jamie Arnold. I think the best pitcher left in the country right here in these 8 teams. So I'm going to go with Florida State as the best pitching staff because he just leads such a good staff. ACC or SEC, Jake? This is where we're leaning on. I know it's
It
brutal.
feels like the ACC. I
It
know the
does, right?
SEC's won it the last few years.
ACC has only won one title ever. It was like what 1954 or whatever.
The Virginia one.
Oh yeah, Virginia, 2015. But
Um,
yeah, some of these teams haven't been there since '54.
Yeah, I feel like it's this is the calling card for the Tennessee's got the 1 seed curse, which despite what Tony V was trying to sell, I think it is a real thing. And then the flip side of that, NC State has a chance to roll through that side of the bracket. Like that's a very, very real possibility. I think I asked the question to Monty and Michael last night. Who do you think's more likely to win it? Tennessee out of the ACC or NC State out of the SEC side? I feel like it's got to be NC State. They feel like
Yeah.
the favorite. The storybook ending, they get everything. I feel like it's gonna be the ACC's year.
I feel like it could be an ACC matchup because I do think if Texas A&M was full and they were full strength and they were ready to go on this one, Zdeo and having Braden Montgomery, I think that I would have picked A&M to win that side of the bracket. I'm leaning towards NC State on that side, and I'm leaning towards North Carolina to win the other side of the bracket. That's where I'm leaning. I think it is going to be an all ACC final, but it wouldn't surprise me if it
An
was
all
all
tobacco
SEC
road
final.
final is what you're predicting too.
I mean, I would love it. I think that it would be great for America. I think it'd be great for baseball, for the true college baseball fans. I think they'd be into that, but we'll see. I mean, I'm okay with any of these 8 teams representing the national champion because I think that they're all
Yeah, I mean, I
worthy.
don't think there's an Oral Roberts TCU situation where you feel like viewership's going to tank. I mean, even people would watch Florida at UNC. Like, that'd be a great series. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's kind of the least intriguing one.
yeah, I don't think that there's any teams out there that you're going to go, yeah, I don't want to watch that one. I think everybody that's into college baseball this year, I mean, the numbers are up across the board, 56% on even last year, which had some of the best matchups ever in the history of college baseball, and where our viewership is even up higher. So I'm excited for this one. All right, Jake, which opening matchup are you most excited for?
Jamie Arnold versus Tennessee. That's
Yeah, God, it's hard to
that's
go against that one Friday night.
I'm glad I'm getting there Friday.
Yeah, I'm so pumped that we're gonna be there for that one because as a college baseball fan in general, and I know that we cover this and we like to do the analysts. That one's going to be hard for me not to walk down in the crowd a little bit and just go out there and get a feel for it because I feel like that's going to be crazy in that stadium on Friday night. I cannot wait for that one.
I would want to sit kind of in that one that's like right near the bottom, that little apron. I would love to kind of see that angle of Jamie Arnold.
I
It's
mean,
been
we
a
might just sneak
year
down there.
since I've seen him in person, so I'm really excited to kind of see him again.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this whole thing, Jake, and I know that us being there is even better, and we're going to be covering tons of stuff for everybody. Make sure you're following all of College Baseball Central. We got a lot of guys going down there. I'm not going to give away all the surprises because I want some to be surprises when they show up down there. But we got a plethora of dudes showing up. We have the top talent showing up down there, and I cannot wait for us to
They
meet
got
up down
the I
there.
know Mark's gonna be staying off site, but we have the CBC frat house. There's gonna be like 8 of us in one house.
I am too old to be staying on an air mattress for 8 days, Jake. I would not survive 8 days on an air mattress. I won't do it. Give me my apartment that I rented. I was smart though. I booked this apartment back in November. So I rented the apartment back in November when it was cheap. Final thoughts, Jake, as we head into the week.
Um, just excited to have another great week in Omaha. It really is the best time of the year. It's everybody that always talks up Hoover. I think Omaha, there's still nothing like it. Every time I get off that flight, I still kind of get goosebumps about it.
Yeah. I'm already like at a high right now, just thinking about my flight tomorrow morning already. I'm so excited just to wake up. It's one of those where you don't know if you're gonna sleep because you're so excited about getting on that flight. Listen, fans of this College Baseball Central, we love you guys. If you see us out and about, don't be afraid. Come up and say hi, shake our hand, take a picture, do whatever you want with us. Come visit. We love the fan interaction. That's why we do this. We love fan interaction. We love the player interaction, the coach interaction. We're going to get plenty of that side. But if you're a fan and you see us out and about, feel free. Stop us. Come say hi. Tell us you hate us. Tell us that I'm the worst person ever for SEC coverage. That's fine. I'm all about it. I'm excited for the fan interaction there, and we'll be walking around some tailgates too. So we're gonna come out and visit you guys in the parking lots. So if you're showing out and about, send us a text, send us a tweet. We'll go out there and visit you guys. All right, Jake. Catch a flight tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow night, buddy. For Jake
See you
McKeever
tomorrow
and Mark
night.
Garland, College Baseball Central's everywhere. We'll see you in Omaha, folks.